This week, a piece of the action. This one, pure comedy out of Star Trek. Purely meant as a comedic episode. The Enterprise is headed to planet Sigma Alosha 2 because a starship that had been there 100 years ago may have contaminated the planet. They sent word, but there was no subspace communication in those days, so they just got the message 100 years later. They didn't know what to expect. They get to the planet, and the person they talked to on the planet didn't know what they were talking about. But he said, well, come on down. Kirk said, okay, we will. He grabbed Spock and McCoy as they stepped off the turbo lift, yanked them back into the turbo lift, so we're going down to a planet. They get there, and it's clearly modeled after 1920s Chicago. Clearly modeled after that. Then they get attacked by guys with Tommy guns. They don't know what's going on. They get taken prisoner. One guy's been shot to death. They go to see this guy that calls himself a boss. They go to the boss. He has their weapons. He's like, I'm going to take these phasers, and then I'll rule the entire planet. Kirk doesn't know what's going on. Spock sees a book, and he's like, maybe this is what caused it. There's a book on a pedestal that said, Gangsters in Chicago of the 1920s. It was published in 1992, it said. I don't know if that book ever got published in 1992, but it should have. But in Star Trek, it was a book. Apparently these Alosians read the book and patterned their entire planet after 1920s Chicago. They used what lingo they thought would be used. Their dress, their architecture, all modeled after that. Kirk's like, whoops, I guess that's our fault, we'll have to rectify it. But they're held captive, so to get out of it, Kirk invents a card game called Fizzbin. Invents this game, they're trying to play the game, and he throws the table. Well, Dr. McCoy uses judo on a guy, and Spock uses the nerve pinch on another one. Kirk's like, I'll grab this Tommy gun, and I'll go stop these people from apparently being on that planet acting like it's 1920s Chicago. He didn't have a solid plan. He told Spock and McCoy to go to the ship, find out if the computer can tell him what to do. So Spock and McCoy take off to find the radio station so they can get transported back onto the ship, which they do. Kirk gets like 20 feet away and someone pulls up behind him with a gun, takes him prisoner. He goes to the next box. And he goes to this box, played by Vic Tayback. And this boss wants the same things, wants all the phasers. Kirk, of course, escapes, and it becomes like constant. They grab the crew of the Enterprise, they escape. They get grabbed again, they escape. That goes on for some time. Kirk and Spock eventually take the clothes off a couple of the henchmen, and they walk around in 1920s era suits. Kirk trying to drive a car a few blocks, but he can't operate it. Spock's like visibly angered and frustrated and probably car sick because Kirk can't quite figure out how to drive it. They call up to the ship and Kirk starts talking in 1920s slang. Scott can't understand it. So Kirk will have to give him an order, and then he'll have to whisper the actual order and then go back to the slang. No reason to do that. He just did it. He just did it. They beam aboard one of the bosses to the transporter room, hold them there until they're ready. They beam all the bosses aboard to the main boss's office to have a meeting. Kirk wants them to throw away their entire system of living and adopt a one-boss government. Then he negotiates a deal. But then, of course, there's hits on people because all the bosses are warring. So Kirk orders phasers on the Enterprise to stun for a citywide block, and everyone gets stunned. So they're like, well, okay, I guess if you're going to do that, we'll go along with the plan. Kirk's like, okay, we'll be back in a year to collect our cut. We want a piece of the action. Spock was like, well, how are you going to explain that? Kirk's like, we'll just take it and put it in the Planetary Treasury Department, and then we'll use that to fund new programs to teach these people that they can evolve past 1920s Chicago. Isn't that logical? And then Spock was just for words. He didn't agree. But McCoy, using the vaguest of terms, playing the pronoun game, finally has to tell Kirk he left his communicator down on the planet. Kirk's like, well, that could be disastrous. They could take the thing apart and they'll base their entire ideology on the communicator and its components. And then they laugh. Although that was a serious problem that they had. They could have done that. That was pretty much what happened. Some interesting facts in this one. No Mr. Sulu again. He was not in this episode either. Still filming the Green Berets. Mr. Chekhov was in the episode, but he had one line in the opening of the show. That was it. He was almost not even in it. Uhura had a few lines. Vic Tayback, who was one of the bosses, he went on to play Mel in the TV show Alice. He also reunited with William Shatner during an episode of T.J. Hooker. Oh, and if you enjoyed comedy in your Star Trek, I think you'll enjoy this one. One of the better comedic episodes that they ever had. Oh, pretty much episode 43.